In this lecture, we are going to apply the attributes to the render function for the search form block. Conveniently, WordPress will handle grabbing the attributes from a block's HTML comment. The JSON object is converted into a PHP array. This array is provided to our render callback functions as an argument. Let's try using our attributes to change the block's styles. Open the searchform.php file. Inside the argument list of the search form function, add an argument called attributes. Next, let's extract the items from the attributes array. This will help with readability. Create a variable called bgcolor. The value for this variable will be the attribute's bgcolor item. The attributes in the array are stored as an associative array. An attribute can be referenced by the name stored in the block.json file. Before defining the next variable, let's wrap this variable with a function called escapeAttribute. WordPress defines dozens of functions for escaping and sanitizing data. The concept of escaping and sanitizing data is common in the programming world. Both concepts have the goal of protecting your site and users from experiencing malicious content. The goal of sanitizing or escaping data is to clean data before storage or output. Despite having similar goals, there are differences. If you're filtering or cleaning data, this is considered sanitization. However, if data is being sent to the browser, we consider this action as escaping. It's a matter of where the data is going. If you're trying to save data in the database, you should always sanitize it. On the other hand, we may want to output a variable in the browser. We should escape it before doing so. This page provides documentation on the most common functions for sanitizing or escaping data. From the sidebar, let's click on the Escaping Securing Output section. Under this section, we are given a list of functions for escaping data. According to the documentation, the escapeAttribute function is useful for escaping data that will appear in an HTML attribute. You may be wondering, why should we escape data? Isn't the data in our database secure? That may not always be the case. A hacker may try to insert malicious HTML into the database. If this data gets rendered on the browser, a simple style attribute can quickly become a nightmare. Therefore, we should assume our data can be compromised. Escaping is the best way to reduce harm. Switch back to the editor. The escapeAttribute function will return the escaped data. Let's do the same thing for the text color attribute. After making those changes, we should create the value for the style attribute. Define a variable called styleAttribute. Its value will be the following: background color, bgcolor, color, text color. In our template, we have two locations for applying these styles. I think it's a good idea to store the value for the style attribute in a variable for reusability. Inside the variable's value, I'm injecting a variable. PHP supports variable interpolation, which is the process of adding a variable to a string. There are two rules for variable interpolation. Firstly, the variable must be wrapped with curly brackets. Secondly, the string must use double quotes. Variable interpolation does not work for strings with single quotes. By using this feature, we can inject a variable's value into a string. Let's try using our variable. On the div element, let's replace the block props expression with the style attribute. The value for the attribute should be the style attribute from PHP. Let's enter PHP mode for echoing this variable. Next, we are going to add a class attribute. By using the block props function, the attributes for the root element of our block are added for us. However, with PHP, we must manually add attributes to the root element. This includes the class for the element. Class names for blocks start with the words WP block. This name is followed by the name of our block. In this case, the full class name should be the following: WP block Udemy Plus search form. Moving on, let's apply the style attribute to the button element. The value is going to be the same, so we can safely copy and paste the value over to the button element. One more thing, the div element with the button wrapper class should have the class attribute. Previously, we renamed it to class name for compatibility with JavaScript. After making those changes, let's refresh the experimental page. As you can see, the blocks template appears on the page. That's awesome. We've successfully brought the block over to the front end. There's one more step before considering our block complete. It should be fully functional for performing searches. Let's work on that in the next lecture.